G'day and welcome back. Today, day number 27 of 30, 27 days straight now I've been coming to you live, talking about composition, sharing composition techniques and tools, tips, strategies, all that fun stuff. It's all about making your photos more powerful with their composition. And to do that, you stack composition. And I don't think I've talked about that enough. So basically, with my Stronger Photo Composition 4-step system, it is all about I've basically got over 100 different composition tools and techniques. I've put them into 4 groups, and then what you do is you go step 1, group number 1, group number 2, step 2, 3, 4. 4 is editing. So at the time of capture, you concentrate on those first 3 steps of the process. And if you can combine 1 or 2 or more from each of those, then all of a sudden, it's just amazing, isn't it? Because a lot of us we're limited by our knowledge of techniques and tips, but we do know quite a few. We know rule of thirds, we understand leading lines, that sort of thing. I've got an error coming up. Oh no, I hope I'm coming through. From YouTube, I've got this error saying you're not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Yeah, okay, all right, let's just push through. I'm assuming that YouTube's very clever and they're working it out at the back end. Okay, so where was I? Got distracted by YouTube. I've got the spinning wheel. Ah, lovely. All right, it's Sunday morning here. There shouldn't be anyone else on the internet. It should be the best I've ever had with transmission. Anyway, joys of living with internet here in Australia. Okay, so stacking them. So basically, you know rule of thirds, you know leading lines, you know about isolation that we're going to talk about today. You understand these things, but when you start combining them together, bang, it just looks so much better. All right, I'm going to close that lid a little bit because that's really distracting with a big warning coming up. All right, so isolation. Oh, I need it open. Just had to mute myself there for a moment. Isolation. So looking inside my course here, I have isolation occurs when your subject stands out in a photo by itself, pulling the viewer's attention. To achieve the isolation, you can shoot with a low angle, with the background is with the sky, which is, we've talked about that, different perspectives, shooting from a low angle, higher angle, through things with framing and or frame within a frame. So we've talked about lots of different ways of isolating things, haven't we already? We've talked about juxtaposition, which is the separation of elements, and the contrast, basically the contrast. The separation of elements, that's more figure to ground. We've talked about figure to ground. We've talked about a lot, haven't we? You don't need to buy my course, no. No, the value in the course comes from having that big list with the description of everything and having it all there. And it's the actual system where the value comes from, because you could just watch a YouTube video like this and pick up a tip here and understand isolation better. But it's the course that gives you the guidance to go out there and with confidence to be more creative and become more intuitive with your composition. That's what it's about. I don't want you to be a slave to the composition rules and techniques. I don't want you to go out and go, okay, I need to do rule of thirds. I need to do isolation. I need to do like that. Just suppresses and holds back your creativity. It's about taking a photo and go and looking at the scene and going, how could I make this better? And isolation could be one of them. All right, so I have this example here, this B shot. Okay, so this is actually the same B. This is the same B shot 4 times, moving around this flower, and then I've merged them all together using an app called Superimpose. Actually, I used Adobe Mix, which is now Adobe Express. Express is now the combination of what was Photoshop Express. This is a mobile app I'm talking about. So Photoshop Express is now a combination of the old Photoshop Express, Photoshop Mix, and Photoshop Fix. So this Photoshop Mix was a great app for adding multiple layers and then going in, adding the same photo or multiple photos, and then swiping over and go, okay, I just want this bit to reveal on top of this one. So you can still do that inside Photoshop Express. It's now a subscription, which for me, I don't know, Adobe, I'm already paying for a subscription for Lightroom, not desktop, just the mobile, and it's fantastic. You get extra, and they're constantly developing new ways of bringing in Lightroom into mobile with just recently they brought in more masking and that sort of thing, which would be fantastic for isolation because you can do this sort of thing, you can mask things. But I don't know, to have two different subscriptions from the one company just doesn't make sense to me. So for things like this, I use alternative apps like on the iPhone, I use Superimpose X. It's brilliant, it's fantastic. There's so many different apps. A lot of them are not worth the free price tag. If you're on Android, Photoshop Express is still probably, well, it's been a while since I've researched them, but that's probably still the best one that I'd recommend, just for functionality and that sort of thing. All right, I've digressed. That's okay. So that's what I was saying. Isolating against the sky. So you can see here with this one, you can see there I've isolated that bee against the sky. Okay, there's no overlap with the other bees. With the other bees there, you can see that there's it kind of recedes into the background a little bit, doesn't stand out. And because it's isolated and you've got that contrast, that juxtaposition, you've got that separation, bang, your eye just goes to it, doesn't it? Because you can see the full outline, you can see the full, it's not a silhouette, but you can see the full outline of it. And so your eye just, that's the point of fixation that we talked about earlier on in these 30 days. All right, let me just have a quick look. What else did I write here? Another way you can isolate the subject is to create separation from the background. This can include contrasting background, a blurred background. Blurred background. Now we covered differential focus as a composition technique where things that are further away get more and more blurred. And we talked about the way a camera works, where things where you've got your main subject is in focus, leading up to it can be out of focus, and then beyond that goes out of focus. And I showed you a really cool app called After Focus. Where is it? After Focus. That one there, the one in the middle there, After Focus. It's oh, my screen is frozen. Let me just switch. I assume the audio is still coming through. Let me just try this one. Okay. Alrighty, that camera's out. I'm talking to you here now. Alrighty, we'll push through these technical issues. We're all friends here. You can forgive that sort of thing. All right, After Focus, that's the app that I use, and I showed you the other day. It's a fantastic app for going into a photo that you've already captured and being able to select the area that you want to stay in focus, and then the areas beyond that, behind that, you can select the background, the middle ground, which is a really cool feature, and then you can adjust the blur. And they have this thing called fading blur, so you can go from the bottom of the frame that's in focus to the top of the frame, which replicates that distance, because we typically bring that visual anchor to the front down the bottom of the frame, don't we? Alrighty, so that's how you do that. What else have I got here? Muted background. So if you've got something that has a vivid color, then you can mute the colors around it. Or and I hear this a bit where people say, oh, my photo looks a bit oversaturated. I want to make that flower more saturated, but when I do, everything else becomes saturated, and it just becomes crazy and doesn't make sense. So what you can do is you can use stacks inside Snapseed, which is the history icon, where you can go in and you can, when you press tick on, make an adjustment, press tick, you can go into that little icon up the top there, and you can go into the, try and describe this best I can. You can then go into the stacks, the history icon, go into masking, and then there you can swipe over the areas that you want to apply that adjustment. So what you can do is, oh, there's that error from YouTube. It's all happening. Need a coffee. What you do, instead of going and saturating everything, what you can do is you can decrease the saturation and apply it to the background, so the background becomes more muted. How about I show you? I think it's the best way. Okay, let me go back here. All right, I'm going to bring this one up. This was a photo that I captured yesterday. Okay, that's not working because I've frozen. Fun, fun, fun. All right. Hopefully you can still see me. You can see this. At least my microphone's working today. That's a positive. Okay. All right. So this is a photo I captured yesterday. Okay. So following my normal system, I would straighten it, then I would crop it. So I'm going to crop this, change it into a 16:9. Okay. There we go. And then what I'm talking about here is I want to make those mushrooms kind of more saturated and pop and create that that isolation of that against the background. Now, when I captured this, I reduced the exposure compensation on the iPhone, and then I used a torch to light it up. All right, so what I've got there is, I can see I'm back, I'm live again, so that's good. So what I can do to make that isolated a little bit further, I can go into here and I can go into tune image up the top. Okay, what I'm talking about is saturation, so I can saturate that a little bit. Okay, and then I can go into view edits, tune image, paint it, and now I can paint and swipe. You can see here swiping just over those mushrooms. All right, so that's one way where I can go from that to that, and I've made that more saturated. The other way of doing it, okay, if I readjust it, okay, if I go into saturation, and now I go negative, I'm going to go to the extreme here, make it black and white, just to bring it back a little bit of color in there. Okay, so if I decided, hey, that mushroom was just way too vivid and didn't look natural, what I can do now is I can go in here and I can invert that. So now I've selected everything around it. Okay, instead of the mushroom, I've selected everything around it, and now I'm keeping the mushroom at that same saturation, and then I'm muting and reducing the saturation of everything around it, and that creates that isolation. All right, hope that makes sense. Makes sense in my mind. Alrighty, let me have a quick look. Avoid mergers, so avoid overlapping elements because then they're not isolated. When photographing silhouettes, overlapping elements actually merge together, ruining the outline of your subject. Yeah, fantastic. All right, and I think I had a couple other photos here I wanted to show you. Let me just get rid of that. A couple of photos where we have that contrast that I've already shown you. Okay, I'm just going to go through a couple of random photos here. So this one here, there's a little bit of isolation here now, the similar tone, so it does blend in, but because of the brightness of the frog, you can see that that does create that isolation there. All right, what else have I got here? Let me have a look. Okay, this one here, this was a great example the other day I shared with you. So this is a photo that Marion shared with me, and we did a one-on-one edit on this, and that's on YouTube. So here I wanted to isolate that person. You can see them right down in there, the person there. Because their head is underneath the shoreline, you don't really notice them. But when we actually used an app called Handy Photo, we were able to pick her up and expand her and make her look bigger, which is probably more authentic to what the actual scene looked like. And then we were able to isolate her against the water. So you can see there, you can't see her, but there, boom, she kind of stands out and just makes a much bigger impact there. Okay. What else have we got here? Another example of isolation. All right, this bee. This is a bit last one I'll show. This bee, again, I love bees. So this is an example of isolation. So that isolation over the blurred background is a great example here. Alrighty, so we got through that. Hopefully that all came through okay. And apologies for the interruptions. Now I have warnings saying that my audio bitrate is now too low. I don't think I need all this technical information being fed back to me during the live. We dealt with a frozen camera. There we go. There's my frozen camera. Oh well. 3 more days to go. What have I got coming up? Let's have a look. Got coming up now. Okay. Let me have a quick look. We're going to talk about creating a silhouette tomorrow. We're going to add scale to the photo and talk about why. And then last, we're going to talk about capturing gesture and interaction in the photo. Now, again, that's not really a compositional thing, but it is a strategy and a technique to attract a point of fixation, attract attention within the photo, and read that story. So that's what composition is about. So it's not a composition technique, but it's definitely worthy to be in that 4-step system. So yeah, fantastic. Alrighty, we'll leave it there. Oh, now this is so funny. I wish I could share my screen with you here. Now it says, and I'm just about to wrap it up, now I have a green light saying everything is excellent. Good times. All right. Thanks for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll see you again tomorrow. I'm actually going to come to you over the next 3 days. I'm going to come to you evening, my time, mixing it up a little bit. And so that'd be great. I will see you then. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.